What's up guys, John here. In this video, I'm going to talk about my real estate forecast, what I see happening and where I see this going over the next 6 to 12 months. If you disagree with me or you agree, watch the whole video at the end and drop your comments below. So that being said, I think we're going to see the largest real estate crash we've ever seen. Ray Dalio in 2013, he was the owner of the largest hedge fund in the world. He said this is going to be the biggest recession that he's ever seen in his lifetime, and since 1929, maybe greater. Bill Gates also saying the same thing. A lot of people are very pessimistic about the future, but for me in real estate, I'm very optimistic. I see a ton of opportunity for the smart and savvy investor that has a plan and really knows what he or she is doing. So in big cities, everyone knows that people are leaving and they're going to the suburbs. They can get a bigger house, they can get really a bigger place for less money, and a variety of other reasons. So people are leaving. So we saw the first wave of people leaving about 6 months ago, and now we're going to see a second wave. That's going to be in end of November and the holidays. Everyone's going to say, why am I spending all this money to be in the city when I can go to the suburbs for less? And people are going to start going there, especially if we start to see a lot more crime, like what I think we're likely going to see. So that being said, in New York, we've already seen 15% rent reductions. LA, 6%. But 6% is very below what I think is true. I go to downtown LA almost every day, and I walk into a lot of these high rises in prime sections, and I talk to the leasing agents there, and they're telling me that they're dropping rents between 25 and 30%, trying to do whatever they can do to rent those units. So that being said, if they have more people leaving, then they're going to have more availability. They need to drop rents even lower to compete and get those units filled. In San Francisco, 31% rent reduction. Let me show you what this does to a landlord. Let's say that you bought a property, a 4-unit property hypothetically, in San Francisco over the last 5 years. And it was a 5% return. 5% return. So if you bought it, you make 5% on your money if you paid cash, right? So let's say that you took out a loan. And this 4-unit property is renting for $3,000 each unit, so $12,000 per month. So a $2 million property, you put $600,000 down, took out a loan for $1.4 million. Your mortgage cost of the loan is probably going to be about $8,000 plus property tax at about $1,500, and then a water bill. They're probably all going to be metered together, so you're going to probably pay the water bill as well. So about $10,000. So now with a 31% rent reduction, this is now $2,000, and this is $2,000. That's $2,000, and that's $2,000. Now it's $8,000. You're losing $2,000 per month. Every single month you're holding that deal. So that's $24,000 a year. That's if also it's fully occupied, which right now it's probably not because most people aren't paying rent. So that being said, you have a big problem here. And before, the game plan for most real estate investors, and it was a great one, was they would find one really good deal and they buy it for say $1 million and find a way to do forced depreciation and make it worth $3 million, take out a big loan on the property and do what's called a cash out refinance and buy other properties and keep rinsing and repeating. And over their lifetime, they grow this huge portfolio, become wildly successful, have a ton of money, and really have a trust for their family, and and their family members would continue to grow it and they become wealthy beyond measure, right? But that's not going to happen right now. A lot of people are going to be giving their properties back. So that game of whoever owns the most units wins is going to start in probably about a year, when you're able to buy all these properties for pennies on the dollar. I mean pennies on the dollar. We have 40 million people right now that are subject for eviction. 40 million. The population of California is 40 million. So the entire population of California is up for eviction December 31st. Well, if that was actually California is actually pushed a little bit further. But the entire country, CDC says it is December 31st. So that being said, they're not going to evict women and children in the dead of winter. They're going to likely kick the can down the road, maybe till March or April. And that 40 million number is probably going to be 55, 60, 70 million people, which 60 million is the size of Florida and California combined. So what is that going to do? That is just one part of the problem. The second part is there's so many property owners right now. There's roughly 5 million property owners that are in forbearance, meaning they can't pay their mortgage and they are really just behind. So they're trying to make a deal with the lender to come up with a payment plan. Now, if they can't come up with the payment plan at the end and really make good on it, they're gonna have a big problem. In addition to that, 9 out of every 100 homes in America is in some form of foreclosure. So as all these protections go away, you're gonna see a wave of problems hit the market. I mean, massive. So in addition to that, if things couldn't get any worse, this is also what I think is gonna happen. It's very, very probable, and I don't think that there's a way it doesn't happen. So you have a lot of these high income earners, people like this, they're paying $3,000 per month in rent. They might be making $100,000, $150,000 a year. So they go to the suburbs and they buy a sick $500,000, $600,000 house, living well, working from home, have a beautiful home office, right? And their boss is saying, why am I paying Mike or Sally $150,000 a year when I can hire someone in India or Japan or China for less money who's just as smart, probably smarter, that will work harder, and I can grow my company. Instead of wasting money on American talent, I can hire more people and grow faster. And that's ultimately, I think, is what's going to happen. There's going to be, the earth is going to be more of a flat playing field where people are competing with everywhere from other countries. It's just going to grow and become much more common. So as that happens, salaries and wages are likely going to drop in America. So that's also going to impact people's spending. So that being said, I think that's also going to be a really big threat to America. Probably this is going to be more like a 3 to 5 year plan. But what I do see happening, I think cities are going to be a great investment, especially expensive cities. However, you want to watch the politics. But you can get great values. You're going to be able to get great values because there's going to be a wave of foreclosures and just you can be able to buy great assets. Another issue that I also see happening in New York and San Francisco and LA is something called rent control. So before, people would rent an apartment and live there, and as long as the rent was cheaper than every nearby apartment, they would just stay. And they were incentivized to stay. But what's going to happen is the people that were renting these rent control apartments also lost their job because they were maybe in the service industry and they are out of work and now they don't have any money, so they're going to be moving as well. So you're going to have a wave of just people moving, more apartments are going to become available, and supply and demand, the more that's available, the lower the prices have to be to fill these units. So with all that in consideration, you have to also take into account where things are likely going to play out over the next 6 months to 12 months. I personally think the first shutdown they say was 15 days. In reality, we're 8 months in, and they are selling nothing except more and more and more fear for a second. So if we get locked down again, and that extends for another, say, 3 months or 6 months, all that is going to do is going to just bankrupt more and more companies. They say over 60% of all businesses are gone forever, and Yelp reported over 100,000 businesses are gone as of about 2 months ago. So if this goes another 6 months, we might see 200,000 American businesses gone, and that's going to be a huge dent to the middle class. So with all that said, I know that's a lot of information, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a general 10,000 square foot overview of what I think is happening in the real estate market. So you just want to be really cautious. I've had some really good advice from people that are way smarter than me. One really good piece of advice is from Steven Schwarzman. He has $500 billion in assets under management under Blackstone. And someone asked him, how do you predict the bottom? When the market's crashing, how do you predict the bottom? He says, when it's going like this, when it's about to fall off the cliff, I don't buy. I wait until it falls, it crashes, and then as it rises 10%, then I start going all in. I start going hard. But right now, this is a falling knife. There's people out there buying real estate, thinking that things are going to be like they were before. It's just not going to happen. Not every crash is the same. The 90s crash with the tech bubble, it was different than 2008 crash with home mortgages. This upcoming crash, we're going to see the biggest transfer of wealth that we've ever seen, ever. And this is ultimately going to impact everyone's spending and the way that people operate on a day-to-day level. So big changes come into real estate. Another person that gave some really good advice is Ray Dalio, who also said that no no one can predict the future based on the past. So just because a stock or a piece of property or anything performed a certain way over the last 10 or 20 years does not mean it's going to perform like that in the coming 10 or 20 years. And I'm going to leave it with one final statement, which is if you want to make an investment and you want to take that risk, just always ask yourself, if I take the risk and the worst case scenario happens, can I survive? If you can survive, then it's only upside because you'll get a great education, and that education you'll use to make smarter decisions later. But if you don't, then ultimately you have to start over, and it can be a devastating blow to your long-term success. So I hope all that information helps you. Please drop your comments below. Very curious, what do you think? All right, guys, and please hit that like button as well. I'll see you in the next video.